Good morning to all my Facebook listeners, Blake Media listeners. I want to welcome you to this morning's broadcast on the On Point. I tell you, I'm still recovering from my visit over to uh, Las Vegas, Nevada. Wonderful place, good. Sights to see. Uh, I don't gamble, so it was still cool. I can walk by a slot machine and not feel any drama at all. Don't want to, Some people like to gamble. I don't. I don't. I don't even drink. Well, I didn't drink a thing. I don't. I just don't. It was just fun still to just go in and be in the environment, see all the crazies. I don't know. You know, it's just fun. My purpose of visiting there was to go see my mentor that I hadn't seen in 35 years. You know, he was always in my mind and in my heart for what he gave me for the kind of he kind of spearheaded my life in the right, made sure I was headed in the right direction. And it was funny because he said he didn't realize how much of an influence he was on me, but he was. And sometimes people in our lives they it's in their heart to just give and help others that there is just in them to do that, which is like me. I want to help other people, and um, that's just our intent. It's just who we are, to just to help others, and just that influence just ends up being that thing that one another needs to guide us in the right direction, and it, it's just wonderful. It was just good, felt good for me to be able to go back and let him know. Although I've spoken to him over the phone, but I just want to see face to face and give him a hug and let him give some love, let him know how it felt um, for me to be able to do that, because I was 18 years old back then, and being 18, man, I was straight from the hood, straight from the streets of Baltimore, Maryland, and had a new career as a firefighter. I didn't know what was up, and for him to, he didn't have to, because he was a civilian firefighter and I was military. I had a military supervisor that was responsible for me, but he took it upon himself. He said, "Okay, Blake, I'm going to help you get. I'm going to get you help you get licenses on all the vehicles in the station." And whenever I had questions and everything, I would always go to him. But Mr. Simmons took it upon himself to make sure I got licenses on all the vehicles in the station. And when it came down to it, he said, "Okay, you gonna get your license. When it comes to the pumper, I'm going to send you over to Randy Osborne." And Randy, I don't know if he's still around, but Randy got me licenses on the pumper and everything. I first run pumper at Andrews Air Force Base. I drove that when I was there. And then when it came to the rescue truck, I went to Mr. Teddy Bishop, and he got me licensed on the rescue truck. Even though I wasn't rescue qualified at the time, but he taught me how to drive a stick. I mean, there's many other influences in my life, but you know, Paul Bell was another one. Paul Bell's here in Arizona. Paul was on the truck the very first time I had a fire, and the very last time I had a fire. And Paul was stationed with me at Andrews, and then he was stationed here with me at Luke. But there are many others. I don't want to leave any names out, but there's a lot of other names out there that helped me. But this one is about Mr. Simmons. So this is about Mr. Simmons. I have a PowerPoint that I'd like to share. Uh, it's always a good way to get the information out, things that I learned, that I gained. So it helps to keep myself on track, so I won't kind of go off deep end, because man, I can detour in a heartbeat. Um, just a little bit about this background here. My son sent this to me, and this is in Guatemala, and this cat right here is like the knowledge guy. Don't know his name, but I thought it was pretty unique to be able to share this one, because that guy is about knowledge. So let me go on with the PowerPoint. So here we go. What's not PowerPoint? It's Keynote. Again, this is our model talks about knowledge comes in. We want to change our behavior. We're talking about the skills in the middle there, the actions that we need to take. And those actions, we're looking to correct and detect our thinking, our knowledge on our actions that we take. Then there's the the behavioral cart. We take this cart and we go with each stage of the action model, and we want to change our behavior and the outcome. This is the inflation model that the country's going through right now. The Feds have been increasing the interest rate to kind of stave off the inflation. Let me see. So far, they're kind of doing okay because the market is up to 3,200. It was 3,600 at the beginning of the year. Still down, but it hasn't, yeah, gone. They're kind of backing it off a little bit. But it's a money. It's a game someone had to play. I'm thinking we're right about there, but we'll continue that conversation a little later. The article that I found for this week and next week is a financial literacy article and talking about youth and entrepreneurship in the country of Jordan. Now, I'm not going to touch too much on it, other than the fact that it talks about the youth and entrepreneurial attitudes in Jordan. And I thought it was unique. I'll share more again next week. But this one talks about entrepreneurialism in the country of Jordan and how that country has uh, a lot of economic issues that face it. And because of the economic issues that country face, the youth there look at entrepreneurialism as a means of getting from poverty into a profitable position. So those young folks go into business more so than working on a job. And a lot of times, like coming from the youth in Baltimore, that's a lot of, uh, you tend to want to go into business more so than being on the job because you gotta hustle to make things work for you in some cases. And that's not when I was younger. I always business was the way to do it. I had an uncle that was in business. I had another uncle that was a side hustler. But Calvin had my uncle uh, Calvin was kind of a hustler, but he always had a job too. But he knew how to work with his hands. He had some good things that he always invented stuff and made things with his hands. Then I had another uncle, and my other uncle owned a business, owned a clothing store, and his clothing stores, he had a business. So I had those two uncles that did those things, and so, but these kids had that aspect as well. So, but I'll talk about that a little more on the as we go next week. So here was what we talked about in the past couple of weeks. Talk about leaving that legacy, and we'll talk about a mentor and legacy now. But in Hebrews 6:12, it talks about being followers of them who, through faith, inherit through faith and patience, inherit the promises. So we talk about leaving a legacy, having a legacy you want to leave, and living today, leading today with tomorrow in mind. And we left off. We talked about how corporations and individuals, their salary and obligations, and leaving an investment fund. We talked about the targeting component and emotional components to now leaving that legacy. And I wanted just to kind of remind us of that because you got the legacy that you leave from your family, the legacy that you leave, the targeted things you want people to think about, the emotional concepts of leaving that legacy, and and you want to you have all these thoughts in your mind, and sometimes you think about legacy, sometimes you don't. You just because you're living life, and you want to do some good things for your family. You want to do some good things for others, and uh, at the same time, you live in life. You live in life. Sometimes, and you like in some cases, you live in paycheck to paycheck. And you're not sure what you're doing is good or bad. Not sure it's right or wrong, and you and sometimes it may seem like it's a struggle, and you're not knowing what you do. But this this week when I went to Vegas and I seen Mr. Simmons and his families, uh, it just had me reflecting on two types of legacies from what I experienced. I noticed that there's a And kind of God kind of revealed it to me. There's a born legacy, and then there's an influence legacy. So there's a born legacy, then there's an influence legacy. So the born legacy is through natural birth. You're born into it, and there's no right and wrong, good or bad. There's just the types that I saw. So there's a born legacy, and it's natural birth. You're born into it, and you're born. That's like, there's nothing wrong with it. You're born into it, and sometimes it's good to be born into that legacy, because it's you're in there. It's your namesake. You're like my Joe Blake the fourth. He was born into it. He's got that legacy there. I'm doing my best to make it a good one. My dad, my son, you're born into it. But then there's a legacy. It's a legacy by choice. That legacy is by choice because you know someone chose to give that knowledge, provide you that information, provide you that guidance, provide that to you, and it was a choice that that individual, that person, that that choice was, well, it was a choice that someone made, that they wanted to share that information with you, share their life with you, share that insight with you, and it was a choice. And that's that influence that that individual wanted to give. Some people you don't have that opportunity. They don't have that 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 gift to give, or that knowledge to give, or they don't want to give. They don't have that in their heart to share what they have with others. Maybe they don't think they have it. They don't want to have it. They don't want to give it, and it stays within themselves, and they don't want to share it. And so, then through born legacy, that's given to the sons and the daughters of that family. That so it's only given within that realm of that legacy. I mean, that family, that sons and daughters, and in that born legacy. Again, there's nothing wrong with that because that's in that within that family. You have to be, you have to be a, uh, you have to be a Blake. You have to be a Warner. You have to be um, what's that cash flow guy say? Kawasaki. You have to be you got to be born a hustler, so to speak, to get that legacy. Where in an influence legacy, there's a giver and a receiver. You have that giver, and then have that receiver, and that's an influence legacy. You have that giver. The giver is there, and it's by choice, and then there's that receiver. And and I was thinking about when I was at Andrews, Mr. Simmons was a giver, and then there's a receiver. But I wasn't the only. Mr. Simmons was a giver, but I wasn't the only receiver. There are other guys that he gave and received to. And while I was there, I met another guy that was a receiver. But there's always a giver and there's a receiver, always. And I know some of us that are out there now, we were givers to others that were receivers too, and it was a free gift that we give. And when you give that gift freely, and then you have that receiver that receives freely, it's a wonderful blessing. But the same thing with our natural family. We give too, but it's for that son and that daughter. And again, either one is still good, but there's a born legacy and then there's an influence legacy. And know that there's those two. So in the born legacy, there's instruction, correction, and direction, right? Because you want to instruct your kids, you want to correct them too, and then there's direction. With influence legacy, there's inspiration, destiny, and divine intervention. And again, there's no. I'm not saying those right or wrong, right or wrong, correct or incorrect. But with your children, there's instruction you give your kids, there's correction that you give them, and then there's direction. With the influence legacy, there's inspiration that you're inspiring them to do certain things, and then there's destiny, um, and then there's divine intervention. And when I see that, Mr. Simmons was inspiring me to do certain things, And I say destiny there because I think back, like I said, Mrs. Simmons and I, we were both from Baltimore. For me, it was because we both graduated from the same high school, even though there was a 24-year gap between the two of us, but it was the same high school. And then I found out a little tidbit about him and me that was similar to that I thought was kind of ironic. Is that being from Baltimore, there was one high school that I wanted to go to, but I didn't get a chance to go to. It was called Carver High. I wanted to go to Carver because I wanted to be a tailor, but I didn't get a chance to go because someone in Baltimore thought that my grades were high and felt that I had stand a better chance if I went to go to city, and I had to stand I stood a better chance in life. And I was like, man, I want to go to Carver because of this, that, and the other. I was like, man, I want to Carver. And lo and behold, Mr. Simmons shared the same thing with me. He wanted to go to Carver, but someone looked at his grades and saw that his math scores were high and thought it would be better for him to go to City. And I was like, ain't that something? Both of us wanted to go to Carver, but someone else looked at our grades and wanted us to go to City to say it would be better for us in life. And I was like, man, that right there is just something crazy. And I never knew that. Never knew that. And sometimes those that's those one of those things that God kind of pointed out to me. I was like, man, that is just something. It's just something. So I'm like, I'm glad I met him, and that was just a 3 year period in my life that I interacted with Mr. Simmons and just kind of turned me in the right direction. And kind of kept me. He was my first mentor, but I had other ones after that. But the first one kind of set me in the right path. And then another thing about born legacy versus influence legacy. And born legacy is royalty or by name. And so, like kings and queens, and or by name, like I said, you can have the Blakes, you can have Kawasaki's, you can have the Warners or whoever it may be, they're all by name. But it's good to have the name. It's good to have a good name. You can create a good name for your family. You can create that name. Because I say, Mr. Simmons' family, they love him. They love him. His family loves him. And I saw that, man. His family loves him. You want to have a family love him, you know. And then influence is a family. It can be family or non-family. There was I posted the picture of me and Mr. Simmons on a Facebook site. There were other firefighters who acknowledged that he was a good man and said good things about him too. And firefighters, man, we all stick together. We about and I like that about being a firefighter. No matter where we all just one another's good fortunes, and we always lift each other up because it's a brotherhood within the fire department. Whether you're a former firefighter or if you're a fallen firefighter, we stick together. Well, know how long you've been a firefighter. It's in our blood. No matter black, white, green, yellow, purple. Firefighters have a blood within us that we hold one another together, no matter where we are. And so I want to thank my other firefighters that said good things about Mr. Simmons when I posted it in the Andrews Air Force Base firefighter link. Thank you guys for saying some good things about me and liking the link for Mr. Simmons as well. But so in influence legacy, um, it's good that we're family. You can be family or non-family. So uh, again, Hebrews says, "Follow them who through faith and patience inherit the promise." Uh, talked about last week about being a branch. You Jesus take the branch that don't bear fruit, and he takes that away, but he prunes the branches that bears fruit so they can bear more fruit. And we talk about in Philippians about thinking about things that are lovely and good, and good report, and things that have virtue and praise. And so there's a picture there that I shared on Facebook earlier. That Mr. Simmons, he's 80, and that dude, he walked the Grand Canyon. He walked the Grand Canyon, and then he came back and walked the Strip in on Vegas. And any of y'all who've been to the Grand Canyon and you walked up those mountains, and then you come back and you walk the Strip in Vegas. Y'all know the Strip in Vegas is that's a lot of walking, and to do the Strip, negative. I ain't doing both of those in the same day. I was like, man, I ain't going to the Grand Canyon and do the Strip. That's a lot of walking, man. He's 80 years old and he was doing that, man. I was like, okay, you're the man. You the man doing both of the same day. So, but that he's 80 years old, still fit and doing that, man. That's tight. That's pretty tight. And so here's a picture of us and some of his family members there. He got 20 family members to come from Baltimore all the way to Vegas to hang out with him there, and that some of us there, and his daughters and some of his grandkids there too, and the gentleman here in the back of the arrow, his name is Jerry. I can't remember his last name, but he came from Pennsylvania, and he flew out there to be with Mr. Simmons too. He was stationed in Andrews from like 82. I think he left in 85 or 80, or 86. He left before became there. He was in the Air Force for like 4 years, and then he got out, and he later became a fire chief himself in Pennsylvania. I can't remember his last name, but his son ended up joining the Air Force. He became a firefighter. He went to see his son graduate from fire school, and I think it was Goodfellow. And he said he had to squeeze into his fire chief outfit so he can go down and see his son graduate from fire school. And we had a great conversation too. And it was just good that he knew a lot of the same folks that I knew from Andrews, because I was at Andrews in '84. No, I got there in '84, so he got there. He was there a little bit before. He left like a year or two before I got there, but we knew some of the same people, and it was like, again, it was like brothers, a brotherhood, but he's a white guy, I'm a black guy, but we still brothers, it was like he was a big brother and I was a little brother, and we were there, you know, giving honor to Mr. Simmons, and it was just a wonderful event to be able to honor the mentor in our lives, and like I said, it was cool. I mean, and Mr. Simmons, he was rolling. I'm not doing Grand Canyon and walking the Strip in the same day. Mm-mm. So it was a great event, and I tell you, it was wonderful meeting. Seeing Mr. Simmons again after 35 years, and it was like lock and step. I was back in my spot, as listening to him walking down the Strip and hearing what he had to say. Both of us wearing hearing aids again, so. But it was great. So this slide is about my book, the book club that I have. I did want to get to the slide that shows the ways you can get a hold of me again. And let's see here. Is that it? Go here. Oh, just summary of all the things about the book again. Ways to get a hold of me. That was my cell number. Also, the link to my website, Calendly link. You can set a meeting with me. Here where you can purchase my book. This is where you get Patreon, and then the webinar if you want to link there, and then the focus until follow one course until you're successful. That's one of my battle cries. I have a couple of different battle cries, but yes, mentorship, that mentorship legacy. And so there's a giver and there's a receiver. And I tell you, this was a wonderful occurrence, and there's a wonderful thing that I was able to experience this past week. And if you're a mentor out there, know that, you give from your heart, share from your heart, and those things that the people are listening and hearing from you, they you just give, and the change in their lives, and if you're receiving as a mentor, you know, or giving as a mentor, go back and let that mentor know what it meant to you. Because I shared with Mrs. Simmons' family what it meant to me, and they were grateful for that I shared it with them. It made them feel good too, how his influence was in my life. And there's other mentors in my life that I always go back and I let them know how it felt, what it did for me. Like Dr. Alfred Craig, at his church and his ministry, Dr. Craig always, man, he's been a powerful mentor still in my life, and I always go back and let him know how wonderful he's been in my life too. So, but whoever your mentor has been in your life, go back and let that mentor know how much he's done for you and how it's felt that he's uh, influenced your life. I've had folks that I've mentored share what I've meant to them too, and that's been great too, because we all need someone that's given to us, pushed us to that next level, and helped us become better us to do other greater things too. So do that. And next week I'll share more about the article because there's some great things in the article as well. And it's all about helping each other get to that better place, to the next place in life. And I just want to tell you, hey, this is the place on point where we gain more information, knowledge, and wisdom about being uh, financially independent and gaining more financial knowledge about being actionable, financially literate, and make greater choices in life. This has been Dr. Joe Blake on the On Point broadcast, and we'll see you next week. Same place, same financial channel. Have a great one.